Hello, it's Tashna here, and today I'm making resin pucks with different materials mixed in because I don't really see many videos using this resin, and I do use it, so I kind of need to know what works. This is inspired by Rybonator, who makes some great videos, so go and check him out. I use Entropy Resin's Clear Casting Resin and the slow hardener. It does have a fast hardener option, but I want to make dice and the recommendation is slow when the thickness will be above 2.5 centimeters. The mix ratio is 2:1 by volume and 100:43 by weight. I like to weigh it as I do find it a bit easier, even though I mess up in this video. I usually pour the hardener first as it's very thin, so getting the exact weight is a bit tricky for me. The fast hardener has a pot life of around 90 minutes and the slow is 360, which is ridiculous. It takes both 7 days for a full cure, but I usually move after 3. I'm not super careful with the mixing because I've already done some tests and bubbles do come out quite easily over time. Throughout, I'm not popping any bubbles stuck to molds or flaming the top of the resin, so you can see some bubbles hiding away in there. All my shot glasses are numbered, and first I'm doing a blank with nothing added. Number 1 is Humbrol Enamel Paint in Metallic Gold 12. I didn't mix it well before adding it, and I definitely added way too much, but you live and learn. That is literally the point of this video. Two is Citadel Colour Contrast Paint in Magos Purple. Just kind of pouring it in there, it's very scientific, and then I give it a swirl. Three is Pinata Colour Alcohol Ink in Calabaza Orange. Fair amounts of drops in there, and I really expected this to come out well, so I'm not worried even though I'd never used it before. 4 is a Work of Art branded Watercolor Paint in Emerald Green. I expected this to go well because Entropy Resin pigments are water based, but as you can see it gets bitty and I try and squash the bits out. 5 is Work of Art Acrylic Paint in Emerald Green. I wanted to compare the same colour and see how they came out. Again, it's really bitty so far and I mixed this for a while to try and get those out. 6 is Purple Food Colouring Gel. I did like 4 drops and I was mixing for a while, but it went pretty well. It just takes a minute. Then we have Tesco Green Food Colouring, and yeah, look at that mix. It's a bit of a funny green there. First time I added it, I was like so confused, and I'm still kind of confused, to be honest. I'm sure there's some science reason it's reddy orange, but I don't know what the science reason is, so it's just a really good orange, to be honest. 8 is Stampendous Shaved Ice Mica Flakes, and I was so excited to use these. They're so pretty and so sparkly, and I managed to stop at 2 scoops, which I think is good self-control. 9 brings us to Pearlex Pigment Powder in 663 Silver. I've seen loads of people use this pigment powder, so I wasn't super worried, but I definitely added way too much for the amount of resin that is in the shot glass. It was 2 scoops. Then gave it a really good stir to break up all the chunks and make it consistent throughout. 10 is Laval Crystal Finish Nail Varnish in Twilight colour. I had to add a lot because it wasn't very strong colour and I was slightly very concerned that this was going to affect the cure of the resin, but I did it anyway. You can see it's bitty again. I just had to keep stirring for ages. 11 is Laval Crystal Finish Nail Varnish, but in pink glitter colour, and you can see I struggle a lot with the autofocus. I have definitely learnt something during this video, and it's not to get resin on my camera. 12 is LA Colors Art Deco Nail Art Lacquer. I added a good few drops in there and mixed it. It's a really strong colour and it mixed in super well. 13 is Laval Mixed Colour Eyeshadow, and I choose the darker blue because it's nice. I wish I'd broken the powder up more finely so I wasn't trying to squish it in the shot glass, but it is what it is and we will see how it comes out. 14 is LA Colours Shimmer Gloss called Tangy. I had to break the case to get a good amount of lip gloss, and it was just a mess. It was really weird putting this in resin, but we'll see if it was worth it. So obviously for 15, I used another lip gloss. LA Colours Glossy Lips in Berry Breeze. It was gross and annoying to get to. Make sure to check the applicator if you're going to try and use lip gloss for some silly reason. I don't really recommend it, it gets everywhere. 16, are you sensing that I bought all this cheap makeup at the same time? This is Laval Blusher in Pink Illusion, and this time I did break the powder up more finely and it was a lot easier to mix. 17, a family favourite, tiny glitter. You will find glitter in everything for days, but it will be pretty and you will love it. And then, because obviously, 18 is Turmeric? I don't know how to pronounce that. I just have a crisis every time I have to say it out loud. So let's just mix it in resin. It's fine. All right. 19 is Cayenne. Now, I do know how to say that. So just let's put that in resin. Don't eat the resin pucks. Resin is not good for you. Paprika is 20, and for some reason I didn't show the bag. So you're just going to have to trust me, because why would I lie about that? 21 I decided on last minute, and it's a resin that was mixed at the same time, but I let it sit for around 2.5 hours. Then I dropped alcohol ink on the top in the hopes it would bleed down and be pretty. I used Pinata Colour alcohol ink in Calabaza Orange that I used earlier, and also white. And this is a long clip because it's so satisfying to watch it sink. Look at it sink, so good, so good. Ooh. Rest, my British, and cure. Ooh. Now, I'm impatient and I took these out after 3 days, so they're potentially a bit squishy. Plain is fine, but you'll see a bunch of bubbles where they were stuck to the mould / shot glass. Normally, I would pop these or be more careful with mixing and pouring, but I was tired, okay, and bubbles happen. One was the enamel paint, and you can see there's weird layers and different colouring on the top and bottom, but it is very shiny. 2 was the contrast paint, and there's a bit of gradient in the colouring. The top is darker than the lower half, but I don't mind that, it's just weird. 3 was the alcohol ink mixed, and surprise surprise, it worked great. Really solid colour throughout and really clear. Can probably add less drops if you want it paler, or more drops for darker. 4 is the watercolour paint. I could see some separation through the glass, so I was kind of concerned about that, and I should have been. The top was fine, but the bottom is quite sticky. It is still sticky, and it has been several weeks since I recorded, so that is not going to change, and it's gross. 5 is the acrylic paint, and you can see the top where the resin has sunk. There's a nice little groove there. The paint is really bitty and not mixed well with the resin. There's no sticky bottom though, so hooray for that. It still has colour, but it's just kind of odd. Would be good for like a mossy pond or something, just not really what I was going for. 6 is the food colour gel. I was kind of surprised by this one. It's got a really good colour, but it has some gradient. I don't mind that too much, it's still nice. Unfortunately, the base was sticky. It has improved over time, but it's taken a good while for a good cure, and I still say it's not 100% after weeks. I mean, look at that nail indent, I can still do that right now. 7 is the green food colouring. Honestly, it's weird, but this is one of the best ones. It's not the colour I intended, but it's super consistent and opaque, and if you like orange, then it's certainly orange. 8, are you ready? Mica Flakes, and oh dear, they mostly all sank. Major disappointment for me with this one. I was really hoping they'd be light enough, but I guess not with my long cure resin. Maybe if I used a fast hardener it would be different, but it's a lot. I might try another test in the future, mix some flakes near the end of pot life or something, but for now, I'm just a little sad. 9 is the Pearlex pigment powder. It's really silver on the bottom, but it has gradient again, and like, bleeding down. I don't know, it's gravity of it. Look at those little spokes. It's very sparkly, but yeah. 10 is the first of the nail varnish. This was pink, but is now orange. The glitter's nice and throughout, but why is everything turning orange? I don't understand. It's still good colour and it's really see-through, so if that's what you want, there you go. Eleven is the pink glitter nail varnish, and the glitter is there at the bottom as most of it sank again. There seems to be a theme. I probably added too much nail varnish because it was still kind of tacky compared to the others and generally took a lot longer to cure. It has fully cured now, but this is what I mean when I say things aren't fully cured after 3 days, because I squish it. Look how, oh, it's so satisfying. So squish. So good. 12 is the nail art lacquer, and it is a super consistent colour, really solid. I was quite surprised it was still so bold and it actually cured. I would recommend this one, and I might buy some in more colours. 13 is the blue eyeshadow. Like I said earlier, I wish I'd broken up the eyeshadow more so it's finer because there was loads of clumps on the bottom. Again, there is a gradient, but it's a pretty set of colours. I don't dislike it, it's just not what I was hoping for. 14 is the very first lip gloss, and I really didn't want to unmold it. I mean, look at that colour at the top, and this is where it gets gross. The colour comes right off, but it didn't feel the same as lip gloss. I cleaned it as best I could, and it does have an interesting texture on top, so just bear that in mind. 15 is lip gloss number 2, and it had the same issue but slightly less gross feeling. It came off okay, and the rest of the puck was well cured, but it's definitely not nice to touch until you've cleaned it. The colour was really great and consistent actually, which is weird. And here's the texture on top, which could be interesting. 16 brings us to the blusher. I did make the powder for this one finer than the eyeshadow, but there are some clumps, but not too many really. It's a really good colour, and there is glitter throughout, but more on the bottom because it sank. "17, and I knew this was coming. The tiny glitter, and there's an empty spot there where I tried to mix it a little bit further in the curing process, but I changed my mind. Unsurprisingly, again, it all sank. This can look really good if you want glitter on the bottom, but if you want it throughout, it's just not going to do it with this hardener. I might test it in future where I add the glitter later in the curing process, or if I try it with the fast curing. I don't know how late I can go in the process though, really. 18, and we are on the home stretch. It is turmeric. You know what we know what it is. It's a nice colour, but it's kind of grainy. I try my best to show it here, and on the black background you can see it best. I don't hate it. 19 is Cayenne. The grains are bigger and much more obvious. There's a lot of dark spots and they didn't all sink, so there's that. It's kind of a muddy red colour. I probably don't recommend adding Cayenne to resin, weirdly. Also not recommended, 20, is Paprika. Look at those grains throughout, didn't sink. Less sank in comparison to Cayenne, but really probably don't use this unless it's a look you want to go for, I guess. The final test is 21 and adding alcohol ink after 2.5 or so hours. It did do what I wanted it to do, and it bled down to make really pretty edges. The top and bottom are nice, but I can say now that I added way too much ink for the size of puck. I'd recommend waiting 3 hours or so if you're using a slow hardener, but I think it came out quite well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Here are all the pucks with their numbers, and I'll be posting some photos on Twitter, which I will link down below. I hope you have a great day and safe crafting.